Let me start with something that will make you feel uneasy. If you're keeping most of your money in a bank account waiting for the right time to use it, you're not playing it safe. You're choosing a way that will definitely lose money. And I can prove it with simple math that a middle school student should understand. But somehow very smart people miss this all the time. Here's the math nobody wants to look at. If prices go up by 3% every year and your savings account pays you 0.5%, you're losing 2.5% of your buying power every single year. That's not a risk. That's something that will definitely happen. Over 10 years, you'll lose about 25% of what that money can actually buy. Not what it says on the bank paper, but what it can do in the real world. And that's thinking prices only go up at the government's nice number. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Charlie, cash feels safe. I can see the number. It doesn't go down. That's the problem right there. You're watching the wrong number. You're looking at the dollar amount when you should be looking at buying power. It's like being happy that your car's speed checker still works while ignoring that you're running out of gas. The mind trick here is easy to predict. We humans have what I call super strong hate of losing things. We hate losing what we have more than we enjoy getting something new. So, we hold tight to our cash, scared of the stock market going up and down, while prices rising quietly steals from us year after year. We're so afraid of a 20% drop that might come back that we accept a guaranteed 30% loss over 10 years. That's not smart thinking. That's just expensive fear. Let me give you an idea that saved me from many mistakes. Always flip it around. Instead of asking, "What should I buy?" ask, "What are the ways I'm certain to lose?" When you flip the cash question around, the answer becomes clear. Holding cash when prices are going up is choosing certain loss over uncertain but likely gain. You're picking the guaranteed wrong answer because it feels comfortable. I learned this from studying science, not money. In science, there's an idea called entropy. Things naturally move from neat to messy unless you add energy. Cash buying power has entropy. It gets weaker naturally unless you do something about it. The second thinking tool you need is growing interest, except working against you. Einstein supposedly called growing interest the eighth wonder of the world, but he should have mentioned it works both ways. When prices go up by 3% and your returns are basically zero, you're watching backward growing interest destroy your wealth in slow motion. It's painless enough that you don't notice year to year, but terrible over many years. Here's what people miss. They think going up and down equals risk, but real risk is losing buying power forever. A stock collection might drop 15% in a bad year. Sure, but cash is guaranteed to drop 3% in a good year, and that's forever. You never get it back. Warren and I didn't build Berkshire by holding cash. We held businesses, things that make money, raise prices, and adjust to price increases. When we bought See's Candies in 1972 for $25 million, people thought we paid too much. But See's could raise prices. The brand had pricing power. Cash in a bank account has no such power. It just sits there shrinking in real value while businesses that make things grow and adjust. Let me tell you about 5 things that are actually safer than cash. Safer in the only way that matters, which is keeping and growing your real buying power. And I'll explain the thinking tools behind each one so you can think for yourself. First, businesses that make things, what most people call stocks, though I prefer to think of them as partial ownership in actual companies. Here's the key understanding. A well-run business with pricing power naturally adjusts for rising prices. Think about Coca-Cola, which Berkshire owns a big piece of. When prices rise, Coca-Cola doesn't just sit there losing value like a dollar bill. It raises prices. Its earnings grow. The value of your ownership grows with it. Now, I'm not saying buy just any stock. Most stocks cost too much most of the time, and most investors are their own worst enemies. But owning pieces of great businesses, companies with strong brands, low cost to run, and pricing power is basically different from holding cash. The math is simple. Over the past 100 years, stocks have returned about 10% every year, while prices rising averaged about 3%. That's a real return of 7%. Cash has returned basically zero real return, and often negative. But here's what you must understand about your circle of knowing. If you don't understand businesses, if you can't read a money statement, if you panic and sell during bad times, then stocks aren't safer for you. You'll make them dangerous through your own actions. This is where most money advice goes wrong. People give the same advice to everyone without thinking about the biggest thing that changes: your own mind and knowledge. Know what you know, and more importantly, know what you don't know. The second thing is real estate that makes money. Notice I said makes money, not just any property, but property that brings in income. A rental property that throws off cash is something that makes money, just like a business. Real estate has several good points when prices are rising. Rents tend to go up with rising prices. The loan, if you have one, stays the same. You're paying back cheaper dollars over time, and the property itself often goes up in value as building costs rise. But again, circle of knowing matters. Being a landlord is work. It requires good thinking, fixing things, choosing renters. If you don't know what you're doing, you'll buy the wrong property at the wrong price and wonder why real estate doesn't work for you. Warren and I have owned plenty of real estate through Berkshire, but always as things that make money, buildings that businesses work from, land that serves a purpose, never guessing, always making something. There's an important difference. Here's a test for any real estate investment. If the property stopped going up in value tomorrow, would you still want to own it based on the income it brings in? If the answer is no, you're guessing, not investing, and guessing is just another form of gambling. The third thing is yourself, your skills, and earning power. This is the one thing everyone has, and it's badly underinvested. Benjamin Franklin understood this. He said, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest." Here's why this matters in a talk about cash. If you have $50,000 sitting in a bank account and you're early in your career, you might be making a terrible mistake. That money could pay for education, training, or starting a business that multiplies your earning power 10 times. I've watched people save and save, proud of their cash cushion, while their skills become old. They're so focused on protecting what they have that they ignore the chance to become more valuable. That's backward thinking. Your earning power is all your future earnings added up. If you can increase that by 20% through better skills, you've created far more value than you could by investing that money in anything. And unlike stocks, your skills can't be taken away by market crashes. But, and this is important, investing in yourself only works if you're honest about what skills actually matter. Learning underwater basket weaving doesn't count. Learn skills that create value for others, that are hard to copy, that match real market need. I spent my life learning across many subjects: law, math, psychology, science, business. Not because I wanted to impress anyone, but because solving hard problems requires tools from different toolboxes. You can't build a house with just a hammer. The fourth thing, and this surprises people, is high-quality bonds in certain situations. Notice I said high quality in certain situations, not just any bonds, and certainly not most bonds in today's world. Here's the thinking tool. A bond is a promise to pay you money in the future. The question is, what will that money be worth when you get it? If you buy a 30-year bond paying 4% and prices rise at 3%, you're barely ahead and you've locked up your money for 3 decades. But short-term bonds from trustworthy groups can serve a purpose. They're not there to make you rich. They're there to give you choices, keeping your powder dry for when real opportunities appear, while still earning something better than cash. Warren talks about having cash and similar things at Berkshire, but notice he never has much of it. usually just enough to meet needs and grab opportunities. The bonds are a temporary parking place, not a final spot. The mistake people make is treating bonds as safety when they're really just slightly less cash-like cash. In a high-rising price world, bonds can be just as dangerous as cash, sometimes more so because they lock you in. Here's the rule. If a bond's payment doesn't greatly beat expected price increases, you're volunteering to lose buying power in slow motion. At least with cash, you keep flexibility. Bad bonds give you all the bad parts of cash with none of the flexibility. The fifth thing is useful hard things, things that hold value because they're valuable to humans, not just because we agree they are. This is different from guessing on gold or cryptocurrency, which I'll talk about in a moment. I'm talking about things like land that makes things, machines that bring in income, even a good vehicle if it helps you earn money. These are things that do something, that serve a function, that would still matter even if the money system had a heart attack. Now, let me be clear about gold. A lot of people think gold is the answer to rising prices, but gold just sits there. It doesn't make anything. It doesn't throw off earnings. You buy it hoping someone will pay you more for it later. That's not investing. That's guessing with an ancient history. Warren jokes that we could take all the gold ever dug up, form it into a cube, and it wouldn't make anything except the need for more security guards. Meanwhile, with the same amount of money, you could buy businesses that make billions in earnings every year. Which sounds smarter to you? Hard things only make sense if they make something. A farm that grows crops, not farmland you're hoping to flip. Tools that let you build things, not collectibles you pray will go up in value. Function over hope. The common thread in all five things is this. They do something. Businesses make goods and services. Real estate houses people. Skills let you create value. Even bonds, when chosen wisely, provide choices. They're active, not passive. Cash is passive. It just sits there, slowly, rotting in real terms, waiting for you to do something with it. The question isn't whether cash has a role. Of course, it does for near-term needs and grabbing opportunities. The question is whether it deserves to be your main plan. Now, let's talk about why smart people keep making this mistake. Because understanding the mind trick is important. It's not stupidity. Some very smart people are terrible with money. It's predictable patterns of human bad thinking. First, there's what I call the social proof tendency. Everyone you know keeps money in the bank. Your parents did it. Your friends do it. It feels like the responsible grown-up thing to do, so you do it too without checking whether it actually makes sense. But just because everyone does something doesn't make it right. In Weimar Germany, people who kept their savings in cash were wiped out. The socially normal thing was also the money-destroying thing. Social proof is a terrible way to make money decisions. Second, there's availability misweighing tendency. The pain of losing money in a market crash is clear and memorable. It's on the news. People talk about it. The stories stick in your mind. The quiet eating away of rising prices is invisible and hard to picture, so you fear the wrong thing. You can see a stock drop 20% in a year. You can't easily see your buying power drop 3% per year for 10 years. The second loss is actually worse. It's 30% and forever, but the first feels worse because it's clear. That's your brain lying to you. Third, there's what I call super strong hate of losing things, which I mentioned earlier. We hate losing what we have so much that we'll do silly things to avoid the feeling of loss, even if it means accepting certain loss to avoid uncertain loss. The solution isn't to ignore these tendencies. You can't. You're human. You'll always feel them. The solution is to know they exist, name them when you see them, and build systems that protect you from your own mind. Here's my system, and you can change it for yourself. I decided long ago what percentage of things should be in different categories based on smart thinking, not emotion. Then I stick to it. I rebalance when needed. I don't check prices daily. I don't let fear or greed change the plan. This isn't complicated advice. It's boring, actually. But boring and smart beats exciting and emotional over any meaningful time period. The tortoise beats the hare not because he's faster, but because he doesn't sprint in random directions. Let me give you a framework for thinking about your own situation, because I can't tell you exactly what to do. I don't know your situation, your knowledge, your personality, but I can give you the questions to ask. First question, what is my circle of knowing? What do I actually understand? If you understand businesses, maybe you hold mostly stocks. If you understand real estate, maybe that's your focus. If you don't understand either, maybe you focus on low-cost index funds and developing your skills. Second question, what is my true risk? Not the up and down I see on a screen, but the chance I won't have enough buying power to live the life I want. For most people, the true risk is rising prices, destroying their savings, not a temporary market drop. Third question, what is my time period? If you need the money in 6 months, fine, keep it in cash. You have no choice. But if you don't need it for 10 years, why would you choose something guaranteed to lose value over that period? Fourth question, what are the second-order results? This is where most people stop thinking too early. They think cash is safe and stop there. But the second-order result is safe cash leads to poor retirement, fewer choices, working longer than you want. Fifth question, what does flipping it around tell me? If I hold mostly cash for the next 20 years, what's the likely outcome? Can I accept that outcome? If not, what changes should I make today? These aren't fake questions. Actually, write down your answers. You'll be shocked how much clarity you get from just thinking on paper. Most people never do this. They just react with emotion and hope for the best. Now, here's something that makes people uncomfortable, but it needs to be said. The reason most people stay poor isn't lack of opportunity. It's lack of smart thinking. They make emotional decisions, follow crowds, avoid the math, and wonder why their money life doesn't improve. You cannot think yourself rich through positive thinking or saying nice things or any of that nonsense. But you can think yourself not poor by avoiding stupid mistakes, by understanding the power of growing interest, by not volunteering to lose buying power. Warren and I aren't rich because we're geniuses. We're rich because we're smart thinkers, patient, and we don't do stupid things. We don't panic sell. We don't chase hot trends. We don't confuse activity with accomplishment. We just try to not be idiots consistently over many decades. The power of this approach is that it's available to anyone. You don't need a high IQ. You don't need inside information. You don't need luck. You just need to be smart thinking, honest with yourself, and patient. That's it. Those three things beat brilliance nearly every time. Here's a real example from our own experience. In the late 1990 seconds, everyone was making money in tech stocks. The dot-com bubble was in full swing. People called us dinosaurs for not joining. They laughed at us for holding boring businesses like See's Candies and insurance companies. Then the bubble popped. People lost fortunes, but we didn't because we weren't playing that game. We stuck to what we understood, bought at sensible prices, and let everyone else chase the excitement. Being smart and patient looked stupid right until it looked brilliant. The same pattern has repeated many times. People get excited, chase returns, panic when things turn, and lose money. Meanwhile, the smart approach, buying things that make money at sensible prices and holding them, just works. It's not exciting, but it works. Now, let me address the elephant in the room. What about emergencies? Don't you need cash for emergencies? Of course you do. I'm not suggesting you put every dollar into stocks and pray nothing goes wrong. That would be stupid. The rule of thumb is simple. Keep 3 to 6 months of expenses in cash or near cash. That's your emergency fund. That's your sleep well at night money. That's your the car broke down and the roof is leaking money. Keep it easy to get. Keep it safe. Don't invest it. But, and this is important, 3 to 6 months of expenses isn't 3 to 6 years of income. If you make $100,000 a year and spend $60,000, your emergency fund should be $15,000 to $30,000, not $300,000. Math matters. I see people with $200,000 sitting in a savings account for emergencies when they spend $40,000 a year. That's not emergency planning. That's money malpractice. You've got 5 years of expenses sitting idle, losing 3% buying power every year when you only need 6 months. The rest of that money should be working for you in things that make money, in businesses that grow, in skills that increase your earning power, in anything that keeps and grows real buying power. That's not risky, that's responsible. Here's another uncomfortable truth. The money industry often gives you terrible advice because their reasons don't match with yours. They make money from activity, from fees, from you being scared and needing their help. They don't make money from you being smart and patient. So they sell you complicated products. They tell you that you need an advisor to handle complex markets. They hint that doing nothing, just holding great businesses for decades, is somehow not responsible. It's nonsense, but profitable nonsense for them. The reason to give bad advice is huge. If an advisor tells you to buy an index fund and hold it for 30 years, you don't need them anymore. But if they tell you the market is complicated and dangerous and you need active management, well, now you're paying fees every year forever. I'm not saying all money advisors are bad. Some are excellent. But you need to understand what reasons are at play. Are they paid by the hour for advice, or do they earn money on what they sell you? That difference matters enormously. The best money advice I can give you is free. Spend less than you earn. Invest the difference in things that make money that you understand. Be patient. Don't do stupid things. That's it. Everything else is details and fine-tuning around those main ideas. But people don't want to hear that. They want a secret. They want the one weird trick. They want to believe there's a complicated plan that will make them rich without discipline or patience. There isn't. I'm sorry, but there just isn't. The secret that's not actually secret is that time and smart thinking beat cleverness and activity. The person who buys great businesses at fair prices and holds them for 40 years will beat the person who trades constantly, chases trends, and pays fees to active managers. History proves this over and over. Let me give you one more thinking tool that ties this all together. Opportunity cost. Every dollar you keep in cash earning 0.5% is a dollar not earning 7% or 10% in things that make money. That difference grows over time into huge amounts of lost wealth. If you keep $100,000 in cash for 30 years at 0.5%, you'll have about $116,000 in number terms. But adjusted for 3% rising prices, that's worth only about $48,000 in today's buying power. You've lost more than half your real wealth by playing it safe. If you'd invested that same $100,000 in a simple S&P 500 index fund averaging 10% returns, you'd have about $1.7 million in 30 years. Even after adjusting for rising prices, that's about $700,000 in today's buying power. The difference between cash and investing is the difference between poverty and comfort in retirement. I'm not making this up. This isn't guessing. This is what the history data shows over and over again. The math is undeniable. And yet, people still make the same mistake because it feels safe in the moment. This is what I mean by avoiding stupidity. You don't need to be a genius to see that losing 50% of your buying power is worse than risking temporary up and down. You just need to actually look at the numbers instead of making decisions based on feelings. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but Charlie, what if I invest right before a crash? What if I buy stocks and they drop 40% next year? That's a real concern. Let me address it directly. First, if you invest a big amount and the market crashes immediately, yes, That's painful. But here's what history shows. If you hold for 10 years, the market has never failed to recover and reach new highs. If you hold for 20 years, you've always made money. Always. Not sometimes, always. Second, you don't have to invest everything at once. Dollar cost averaging. Investing a set amount regularly over time removes the timing problem. Sometimes you buy high, sometimes you buy low, and it averages out. Simple, works. Removes the emotional decision making. Third, the market might crash after you invest. Sure, but it might also go up 30% right after you invest and then crash, leaving you still ahead of where you started. You can't predict timing. Nobody can. So, make a smart decision and do it. The alternative, waiting for the right time to invest, is choosing guaranteed loss to avoid possible loss. You're losing 3% per year to rising prices while waiting for a crash that might not come, not be as bad as you fear, or might recover faster than you expect. Here's an idea I've lived by. When you can't predict outcomes, focus on the process. You can't control whether the market goes up or down next year, but you can control whether you're acting smart, whether you're spread out, whether you're in your circle of knowing. Good process done consistently over time leads to good outcomes. Bad process sometimes gets lucky, but usually leads to disaster. The drunk driver sometimes makes it home safely. That doesn't make drunk driving a good plan. Let me close with this. The title of this discussion was about things better than cash. But the deeper lesson is about smart thinking versus emotion, about second-order thinking versus first-order reactions, about long-term planning versus short-term comfort. Cash isn't evil. It serves a purpose, but treating it as your main thing, your safe harbor, your money foundation. That's a mistake born from natural human mind tricks running headfirst into math reality. And math always wins eventually. The 5 things I've discussed: businesses that make money, real estate, your own skills, smart bonds, and useful hard things, aren't magic. They're just smart responses to a world where prices rise and making things grows. They're choosing reality over comfort. Your job isn't to memorize what I've said and blindly do it. Your job is to think, to understand the ideas, to apply them to your own situation, to know your circle of knowing, to be honest about your own mind tricks, and build systems that protect you from it. If you take nothing else from this, take this. Flip the question around. Don't ask, how can I get rich? Ask, how can I avoid staying poor? The answer to the second question is clear. Don't volunteer to lose buying power. Don't confuse number amounts for real value. Don't let fear make you poorer. I'm 99 years old as I'm recording this, and I've spent most of that time watching people make predictable mistakes with their money. The same mistakes over and over across generations. Not because people are stupid, but because they're human. The cure to human nature isn't superhuman willpower or extraordinary intelligence. It's awareness, systems, and patience. Know your biases, build guardrails, think long-term. That's not exciting advice, but it's advice that works. Warren and I built Berkshire Hathaway from a failing textile mill into one of the most valuable companies in the world. We didn't do it by being clever. We did it by being smart thinkers, patient, and consistent. We avoided stupid mistakes. We let growing interest do its work. That's it. You can do the same thing on a smaller scale. You won't build a company worth hundreds of billions, but you can build a comfortable retirement. You can avoid poverty. You can make smart decisions that serve your future self. That's within reach for anyone willing to think clearly. The world rewards smart thinking in the long run, even though it often rewards silly thinking in the short run. Be patient, be disciplined, be honest with yourself. And for heaven's sake, don't keep all your money in cash and wonder why you're not getting ahead. Now, go think about your own situation. Write down your answers to those 5 questions I gave you. Look at the actual numbers, what you earn, what you spend, what you have in cash, what you have invested. Get brutally honest with yourself. Then make a plan based on smart thinking, not emotion, based on math, not feelings, based on long-term outcomes, not short-term comfort, and stick to it. Don't let fear change the plan. Don't let greed change the plan. Just do it consistently. That's how you win. Not by being brilliant, but by being consistently not stupid. Not by timing the market, but by giving time to the market. Not by finding the secret, but by applying the obvious truths that everyone knows, but few people follow. The choice is yours. You can keep your money in cash, watching it slowly lose value, feeling safe while getting poorer. Or you can invest smartly in things that make money, experience up and down, and build real wealth over time. One feels safe, one is safe. They're not the same thing. I know which I'd choose. I know which I have chosen every day for 8 decades. And I'm telling you, the math doesn't lie. The mind trick is predictable. The solution is straightforward. Now it's your turn to decide whether you'll act on it.